Call to order. Wonderful. Amy, you mind calling us in, giving a roll call?
Commissioner Ashburn,
Here.
Commissioner Banks,
Here.
Commissioner Hassler,
Here.
Commissioner Schwinn. Here.
Wonderful. So we get started. Shall we stand for the Pledge of Allegiance?
Pledge of allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic which stands one nation, indivisible, with justice for all.
Morning, everyone. Happy fall. I know it's not yet the calendar of fall, but it seems like with everybody back to school and everything else going on, September becomes fall. So hopefully everyone's doing well. Hopefully you had a good Labor Day weekend. Get a little bit of downtime, a lot of food maybe. Yeah. Maybe. All right. Well, hopefully you enjoyed the 3-day weekend for those of you who got it. Some neat faces in the crowd. So thanks for joining us today. It's hard to believe that we are in the last trimester of the year. That is just incredible. Years flown by. But nonetheless, we will get started here. If you don't mind, open discussion, anything for us to discuss openly. How about if we sit here and build pressure? If somebody says that. Very good. All right. Deputy Chief, thank you for pinch hitting today. You're stepping up with the bases loaded and 2 outs in the bottom of the night. No, thanks for kind of filling in. But if you don't mind, as you get started, the chief is where today?
Chief is in Jeff City. He's meeting with Governor Parsons. Several members of the police department are being recognized. Governor Parsons is recognizing Detective Antonio Valentine and members of the Highway Safety Unit. Some of their actions off duty at Lake Ozark. That's where he is.
Good reason to be gone.
So you get me.
We're happy to get you, but good reason to be gone. Wonderful.
Okay, so first up on the agenda, I was asked a couple of weeks ago to give an update on the strategic plan. And rather than get into specific details about the plan itself, I thought I'd spend a little bit of time talking about the development process and where we are. So kind of to go backwards, been with the police department roughly 26 years. So I've seen my share of strategic plans. Traditionally, the way that the plan is developed, command staff will get together for a day, decide what's important to the police department, and you'd end up with a document like this. Get pushed out to all the divisions, and it would sit on a bookshelf for 3 years till we did it again. So for example, this document is from 2015. The objectives in it is to target crime trends and precincts. So when you read something like that, you talk about it as part of your strategic plan. Shouldn't be an idea that's unique to law enforcement. So when we looked at that, and what we would typically do when we develop these plans is the next 3 years would come, we'd open that one up, we'd see what was still applicable, and we would put it in the new one. We'd see the same plan every 3 years. And it really didn't push the organization to do much of anything. It's really kind of a scorecard of what we do every single day. And so this time around, when we started developing the process, started thinking about how we wanted to do it, thought maybe we'd try to challenge ourselves a little bit and put something a little bit different. So the first thing that we did, I tasked Lieutenant Shulman research and analysis with going across the country and finding a bunch of different strategic plans. Why reinvent the wheel if you could steal something? And what we found when we did that was everybody pretty much does it that way. So no organization really takes a lot of time to develop something internally that is something more than just a scorecard for what your agency typically does. With the exception of one agency, and that was Los Angeles PD. They had a pretty comprehensive strategic plan on their website, public facing, that you could look at and understand if you were a citizen what your police department was trying to do and how they were trying to get there. So we took their format and we stole it. We dropped into it some of what we felt were our key initiatives and goals that we wanted to accomplish. And by we, I mean executive staff. And then we took that format and we pushed it out. So we developed the format. It was roughly 5 pages when we developed it. We created committees similar to what you saw Captain Hall come up and talk about last meeting that had representatives from all across the police department, every division and the office of chief. So we gave them that format that we came up with, and we tasked them with looking at it, trying to determine whether or not they thought it was what we should be working on, and to come up with their suggestions. There were roughly, I don't know, maybe 60 plus people involved in that process.
Yeah, 10 to 12 per division.
So they had 2 weeks. We gave them the format with the initial goals for the department, a couple of initiatives in there, not a whole lot of information. We gave them 2 weeks to dissect that and return back their suggestions. And this is what they came back with. It grew to 12 pages. At the same time we were doing that, we decided we also wanted community input. So we met with media relations, we met with faith, we met with some experts on how to get that community input in today's age in 2022. We developed a survey that went out 2 weeks ago, just ended yesterday. My surprise, we had over 300 responses. Kind of running parallel to that, we had a survey going out internally. So we grabbed those 60 people that were involved in the development process early on, but we didn't touch the whole department. So we wanted to touch the whole department as well. So we developed that same kind of survey that we sent out to the public. We sent it out internally as well. We have, Brian told me, I know, 425 as of today responses. That closes on Friday. So all of that information coming in is going to research and analysis. So at this point, I need to kind of stop and give credit where credit is due. Marissa Williams has been the champion of this whole project. So she made a suggestion, but she made a suggestion on how to develop these committees, who should be on them. She made the suggestion for a lot of the initial input that was in there, because we took some information from some other strategic plans across the country and developed that format. She's the one that has collated these 700 plus responses, and will continue to do that until we meet on Monday to try to put it all together. So that's where we are right now. Happens going forward, we meet Monday, we take all the community input, we take all the internal input, we marry it with these 12 pages now, and this was a bunch of chicken scratch. That's why I'm not showing it to you today. That's what it looks like. So we've got a lot of work to do. But what happens is we put it all together. We come up with basically a document that's usable. What we're going to do from there is we're going to send back the strategic plan to these committees. They're going to tell us how we get to where we decided we need to get. So I know as a board, we'd like to talk about specifics, action items, and measurables. So what are those? That's what these committees are going to decide once they get the actual strategic plan. So when they get it, they're going to build those out. They're going to build out. So basically the strategic plan, when it goes to them, will have goals, have initiatives, have key activities, they will have action items. The action items are where the work gets done. That's what they're going to determine. And that's what they're going to work on the first of the year when they get that. So we're going to build all that out based on their input. By November 1st, we should have all of that built. Be able to send it back out to them first of the year. I'll start to work on those action items if they're not already as we go into the beginning of the year. We're going to build 2 documents. So we're going to build a document similar to this. Not going to be this long, hopefully, but it's going to be the public-facing strategic plan that you will see if you go to our website. Then we're going to have the working copy behind the scenes, which is what research and analysis is going to maintain. It's what they're going to push out to the different divisions. It's where the work's going to be done. We'll be able to track that, talk to the board every quarter about our progress, and give you a spreadsheet similar to, say, the Teneo recommendations. So that's the plan. We're on time. By November 1st, we should have it completely built. So I know you're probably interested to see what's actually in it. I am too. Still working on it. Probably by that November 1st day, give or take, ready for consumption. If not, sometime.
So I have a question, and I think you probably started off talking about the former plans gathering dust on shelves. So are you thinking that with the input from everyone, staff, that will make it more of a live document where people are willing to get in the weeds and work.
Absolutely. So back when I was a policeman for the first 15 years, I had no idea what was in the strategic plan. I didn't have any role in developing it. And I didn't know what was in it. And I didn't know what my role is in fulfilling it. So that all changes with that process, not only internally, but externally. So the goal is to be more transparent, obviously, and to be more inclusive of everybody involved in the process. The community has a stake in what we do and how we do it, and so does everybody internally. So we automatically, in the development of these committees, should have buy-in into the plan because they determined what was in it. So they're not only going to determine what's in it, but they're going to determine how to solve the problems. So to answer your question, that should be there because apparently it's part of the process. I will work harder to solve the problem that I identified and I created the solution. That's never been the case before. So maybe the whole thing crashes and burns, I don't know, but it inherently to me seemed like a better way to do it than what we traditionally done.
Is this the 2023 one-year strategic plan? 5 years.
So we built into the plan as one of the initiatives within the goal to keep this thing a live breathing document as we move forward. So we have the ability to update it in real time versus waiting 5 years to update, which is another problem, the way we've done it historically. You know, when I say it gathers dust, that's not, it gathers dust for me.
Yeah, I know.
Okay, because I'm not actively looking at it every single day. Research and analysis tracks everything that's in there to make sure that we're accomplishing those goals and objectives. The point is, I'm not sure that those goals and objectives actually challenge the organization to do something different than we've historically done over the years, because it's just a rehash of what we've done in the period before that. Wanted to do it differently, and I think what we're creating is going to be different. I hope it's kind of what you expect to see as.
So will some of the measurables be 6 months in duration, some 3 years?
It would have to be, because some of the key activities are very easy to accomplish. It could be as simple as getting financing to be able to do something. Some of them are going to take a lot longer. Some community-based projects are going to take. It'll just depend on it, but you'll be able to see that. And the way LA does it is they kind of identify what that horizon is for how long they think it's going to take to accomplish. And I envision that they'll do the same.
Couple of comments, couple of questions. First and foremost, set of compliments, to have a strategic plan overall compliment, right? A lot of organizations don't do that. Very comfortable, very much in favor of this new direction. It's a conceptual new direction until it becomes something. So we like that. The best practices, the benchmarking that you've done, kudos. Kudos especially to the group that was doing it. Town Chaplain, thank you for that, and your team. Particularly Marissa Williams on her work internally. So please pass the board's appreciation on to her. Engaging others beyond the command staff, executive command staff. Again, compliments. People who will own the work are the ones who need to have some input into it. Community input in the survey, the internal input and survey, all great. So compliments across the board on all of that. Very nicely started. Commissioner Hassler asked the question I also had, which is how do we make it a living document? I think you answered that already, that it's just going to perpetually be in motion. It's not to go on a shelf. A question not to answer today, but it is one that we'll get to. So who owns that? Whatever that is, right? Is it everybody? Is it just you in the white shirts? Who owns that? Because how that gets rolled out and communicated, not just initially, but then the ongoing communication to keep people aligned to it so they understand what they're doing and why they're doing becomes critically important to make it go. So sorry for the aside, but that whole piece, who owns it and how does it get rolled out and communicated on an ongoing basis? Sir, how does it integrate with some of the other plans that we have out there? So last month we saw some stuff that was put together by another group. How do those fit together?
So I gave you the two documents right now, or basically the priorities that you saw last meeting, and I gave you kind of what's in here. You'd see a lot of overlap.
Okay.
So there are a lot of people involved in both projects. So I don't know whether the chief said it last meeting or not, but as we were building this plan, the intention was to marry the two. They naturally flow together.
One's more of an internal, one's more of an external.
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you. My last question is, you mentioned a behind the scenes document. Can you clean that up a little bit as to what behind the scenes means?
So this It's a behind the scenes document. Okay, this has my notes on it, my highlights, my chicken scratch, all of that thing. To answer your question that you were going to say for a later date, who owns this? We've already kind of started that process internally through Chiefs Committee, command staff kind of rolling this thing out. As we build this thing out, everybody owns it. That's why you're involved in the process. You'll own it. So that'll be a natural progression as we move forward. But the overall management of the project will remain with research and analysis. Somebody has to own it to correlate all the data that comes in, all the information to keep the document moving forward, to keep the document living as we quarterly assess where we are and how we go places. So that's the answer to your question. You asked before.
Thank you. I'm still gonna come back to, you said for 15 years as an officer, you didn't know what was in it, nor did you care. How do we get 900 officers that know what's in it and
Your
care?
question, the public doesn't need to see this. This is where the work actually happens. So in order to be able to explain to somebody that I need A, B, or C accomplished, I need to give them not this document, which I'll provide for the board later on. Because this is a check mark. This is a very easy to understand type thing. It doesn't get down into the weeds on how you accomplished it. If I had this, you have this right now, you would understand what I'm saying. This is the roadmap to be able to do. This is the working document behind the scenes that research and analysis will continuously update and push out, because it'll have an Excel spreadsheet associated with it. Who's responsible? What's the timeline? What do you need to accomplish? And it'll have this document with it, which is going to be much more intensive than, say, this public-facing document. So they'll be able to mark this up, send comments back, work it, and research and analysis will be responsible. Putting that information in something that the public will understand, something.
Will meet our sunshine law requirements.
Yes.
So still, I'm thinking about you as a patrolman. Let's say, how will I buy into the strategic plan? How will I know? Rather than maybe it just be, you got this assignment to do it. How do I buy into the fact that this is part of the big picture, that this is a piece of the puzzle that's important?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think it's going to take a little bit of time because it's new. I think communication is something that we talk about all the time. We have to do a better job of communicating. This is part of that, but I think we've already started that process. Like I said, I was never involved in any strategic planning. Even when I was a lieutenant on the street as a supervisor, I didn't know what was going on until I became a captain. And it was just a one-day exercise to draw stuff in. It's not the case anymore. These committees that are working all over the place, you saw them last month, and again, working on this, that's really 100, 125 people on the department that are already involved in the planning process. So they already have by those 125. So as we push it out, if we communicate, hey, they're going to get to see this. There's no secret about this plan. They're going to get to see it, whether they read it or not. I don't know. But when we push out that initiative, whatever that is, the division that's responsible, say it's the division of control, it'll need to be communicated that this is part of how we move our organization to get priorities that we're trying to go, whatever goal we're trying to accomplish. So communication, transparency in what we're trying to do and how we're trying to do it, I think are all pieces of that. But you're already seeing that in the development stage. I'm not standing up here telling you what the strategic plan is going to be for the next 5 years because I sat in my office for a couple of hours and thought it'd be a great idea. Doing everything differently. So we're just going to have to kind of allow this process to work as we move forward.
So folks on the street have been part of the committees.
I've been talking about this for over a year. Anybody that'll listen, they've now been actively participating for the entire year, whether it's with the committees you saw last month or as part of this process. So they're seeing that more than just talk, and they'll continue to see that as before. They saw the surveys. They know we're asking for their input. So it's there. It's just a matter of carrying that effort forward. So the implementation of this has been.
And we'll close this up. I think you hear our questions, not so much to get an answer right now, right? What you hear us leaning are what are those forward-looking questions? And so how are we going to make sure people are engaged? How do we make
Always
sure
a challenge.
not just white shirts own it, but everybody owns it, right? Those are not to answer today. Those are for you all to go back and build into the process, not just the rollout process, but the ongoing process. Thank you.
Only assure you that we're going to think that way.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Any other questions? Thank you for the leadership in this.
Yes, sir. All right. Found out up first, right? try to keep this one a lot shorter. So last month, we were talking about the spike in auto thefts, specifically the uptick in Hyundais and the Kia theft. Lieutenant Shulman is going to stand up here in a few minutes and dazzle you with the updated number, which is quite alarming. So what I want to do is kind of very quickly talk about, because we talked last month about kind of what our approach would be to handle this issue. The first thing that I want to say about this one specifically is this is not going to be an issue that we're going to be able to police our way out of. It's just there are circumstances in this particular case that are outside of our control that are really driving these numbers. So those are corrected. It's going to be very difficult for us to get a handle on. That being said, I'm sitting back and making excuses as to why we're not doing anything about this. Let me kind of talk about that. This project is no different than any other project that we would talk about. So you talked about the Jennings project for the commissioners that were here when we first started that in 2019. You talk about the violent crime initiative. It's all the same approach. It's basically a four-pronged approach to be able to solve problems. It deals with education, enforcement, technology, and intelligence. So just to hit on those real quickly, over the last several months, media relations has developed a PR campaign in conjunction with community engagement to push out messaging, kind of make people aware. If you're not aware of this problem, or you've been, but basically lock it or lose it, trying to secure some clubs, steering wheel locks through some private funding mechanisms. We have several on the way. We're trying to get more to push those out. But ultimately, the problem is so big with these manufacturers that you basically have 10 years worth of vehicles out there right now that you can steal just like that. So I was talking to Lieutenant Gomez yesterday as we were trying to work through kind of how we're going to attack this problem. He said, look, unless the police officer is sitting right in your driveway, there's nothing that we're going to be able to do from a law enforcement standpoint to keep a thief from stealing your car. If it's one of these two right now, it's just not easy. So when the Lieutenant Shulman shows you those numbers, you'll kind of understand what we're talking about. So that's kind of the education piece. We're working on some other prevention blocks, adding to citizen police academies. Those are more long-term efforts, but ultimately that's kind of the direction that we're with the intel. And I'm going to be purposely vague here a little bit because I don't want to get into specific operational, not being evasive. I don't want to talk about some of the things that we're doing there for obvious reasons. If you have any questions for later on, I'd be happy to answer them. Not trying to sugarcoat anything right now. But from an intelligence standpoint, right now, currently, all of our information about anything auto theft related or catalytic converter related is sent to the Fusion Center. Daily, those leads are sent out to our partner agencies. There's currently 44 police agencies, federal, state, and local, that get that information. And obviously there are groups targeting these vehicles, so that's from an intel standpoint been the most effective way that we've been able to spam that number every day. It includes St. Louis City. Probably get asked about our operation with St. Louis City, so it does include them. They participate in that. In addition, the detectives are meeting weekly, bi-weekly, monthly with various groups for that same reason. And obviously, with Ted Shulman's research and analysis, people are pushing the data out the enforcement side. From a technology standpoint, we continue to enhance our LPR and RIG capabilities. We have additional resources that are going out targeting specific areas that they identify that need additional cameras and things of that nature. And you suggested the BayCar program, so I don't want to get into a whole lot of detail about that, but we have one. So they're doing that. And then finally, there's the enforcement piece. So that we kind of modeled the enforcement piece after the strike force. Currently in conversations with Chief Spees in Brentwood, Chief Cavens in Town and Country for the development of auto theft related task force, similar to what you see over in St. Charles County. Our 7 different agencies who are committing personnel at this point, so stay tuned on that. We have additional enforcement right now out there on the street, St. Louis County officers in conjunction with St. Charles County that are working special enforcement details. So kind of that's what we're doing. Obviously, the BCI still targets these type of things too. I know several of you have been out and done ride-alongs with them. So they continue to target people responsible. These thieves are not your typical thieves. They are stealing these cars so that they can go out and they can steal from dispensaries, they can do other carjackings, they can steal guns from sporting goods stores. They're increasingly young, increasingly violent. Which is why the BCI targets some of the same people that this group of people. It's kind of a bit unconventional.
Thank you. What registered most with me is it's not something we can police our way through. We can help, but it's not something. So I'm sorry, I jumped in front. Question. 3 quick questions. Is this happening across the country?
Yes, sir.
Secondly, is there any indication from the manufacturers on when they might have some sort of fix in place that would?
We had a conversation yesterday. They've apparently fixed the problem in all new model years coming out now. But for the time being, they're very hesitant to do anything about the 10 years worth of vehicles that are out there currently. To the point where I'm not even really interested in providing the steering locks. We talked to the insurance companies as well, trying to get some buy-in from them, and they blame the car manufacturers, and the car manufacturers just kind of throw their hands up. And so it's a little frustrating from our standpoint. So we'll have to deal with the problem. But until that gets resolved, but to your point about it being a national issue, pretty much every city across the country right now is beating on the doors of these car manufacturers because of the same problem. So I think we'll probably have to be a little patient, see what.
You answered my other 2 questions. Thank you.
So I have another follow-up question from the we can't police our way out of it. Are there other governmental things that can be done to help address the issue? Can we propose to the county council X, Y, and Z? Have we thought about the potential of some sort of ordinance regarding what happens if and when, through our enforcement efforts, we catch some sort of group that is conspiring and engaging in this behavior over and over? Is there something that would act more as a deterrent from a?
I don't think so.
perspective?
Commissioner Ashford, you were at the last command staff meeting where the representative from the juvenile courts was there. I think you heard some of our frustration and dealing with that. That's, as I said earlier, a lot of these suspects are younger, they're juveniles. But when they're not, I think we have the mechanisms in place to deal with them. We have a great relationship with Mr. Bell's office. He's acutely aware of the problem, so he's been very open to dealing with that when appropriate. Also take these cases federal when necessary, and we have a great relationship there as well. So I don't know that enacting an ordinance on a county level would give us an avenue to something that isn't already open. But you do kind of bring up an interesting point. There may be an opportunity to do something else, not necessarily to target the criminals, maybe something else.
Thank you.
Run the budget. Skip the budget.
Moving along fast.
On to the controller. Sure. Board?
Morning.
Just real quick on Teneo from last month, we had completed one item that was sending Cana to meet with ICBC. Another one in front of you today will be open records policy that would also knock another recommendation off. Those are the only updates as of right now. Still 26 items that are listed as some with different timelines. As we discussed last month, search and seizure, for instance, is getting close. We're making some revisions. I've spoken with the county counselor's office about that. So, I thought maybe we might get it to this board meeting, but obviously we want to get it right as any policy we push out. And then there's others that timeline is just going to linger, like the creation. Colonel Doyle's only one that he's left is the creation of fourth SRU, which ideally is stagnates. Any questions for everything?
Just a continued appreciation that we're using this as a mechanism to improve our department.
We'll move through our crime statistics here. January 1 through August 31. Of the notable events, the citizen complaints, internal investigations, use of force, and you can see there, we were actually lower on each month, August of 22 than we were of August of 20. For instance, total use of force incidents in August of 22, we had 27, whereas in 2021, we had 39. So our percentages, the percentage change, obviously, was more in the direction of our favor. We look at the failure to yields, 1539 now total, 246 now represents the highest single month that we've seen in the roll. We had 3 other months where we were in the 230s, but never over 240. So 246 there. On the failure to yields, as you can see here, the total count there, just to break down kind of in August alone, the first precinct, North County Precinct, had led the way. I'm sorry, they did not lead the way. They were second with 56. Jennings Precinct had a total of 65. Still yield. Fourth Precinct, Highway Safety Unit had 30. For our control data for the month, we answered about 900 less radio calls in August. Mission Control than we did month of July. That said, we usually see these trends when we respond to fewer directed assignments. The self-initiated goes up about plus 750. I had about 50 more reports filed. Guns seized was almost equal. We had 84.
Why 900 less? Vacations? Or what causes 900 less?
Less radio calls. That's a great question. When we get into the crimes against persons, our homicide rate percent change last month was 19.1, 19.2 right now. So say holding steady. It's with 10 less. A couple of things to point out here. Total assaults, we were down by 31% August 22 from August 21. We had if you look at all of the assaults, the aggravated assaults, firearm knife, you add all those up, we had 433 assaults in August of 21 as compared to 297 assaults in August of 22. Clearly, there's one of the indicators of less directed calls, less of that violent crime. The homicides by the numbers, 3 from August of last year as compared to 4 this year. But again, the overall, as you can see on the right, it's down in that clearance rate of 94%. When we move into the crimes against property, obviously we've been, Deputy Chief just stood up here and talked about the motor vehicle thefts. I'll have us, the next slide will represent those 2 manufacturers that we've been discussing.
Before you leave, if you were to remove the motor vehicle theft, not because of anything other than a lot of that's outside of anything we can police, our total is a much more favorable piece. I know it's the 3rd largest set of numbers up there behind larceny and destruction, but number reads it a little differently.
And you can look just, pointing out percentage changes in our favor, most of the categories, but we're upwards of moving closer to 50% motor vehicle that is. So just for comparison, August of 2021, we had 161 stolen vehicles. August of 2022, we had 346, which is 115%. So this breaks down by a month, Hyundais and Kias that have been stolen. If you can see January, February, March. Once we get into June, they start to really rise, but you're talking about a grand total of 21, 16, 15, 10 in those first 4 months. And now May 44, now we're up to in August 265 just in a month for those two vehicle manufacturers. There's a little screen there. See it, that number's covered up, but the total is 756. That represents exactly 50% of our total stolen autos have been those two manufacturers. Breaking those numbers down just a little bit further. Of the 756 Kias and Hyundais that have been stolen, 476 the victims said that there was no key inside the vehicle. 49 said that they left their keys in the vehicle. 231 said it was unknown.
So what's the number for September? 30?
Yeah, September.
Oh,
You know,
sorry,
normally I don't
38.
do this, but yeah, we just threw that on there. I'm sorry, that's 38 already. And that was through September the 5th.
So if you picture that as 1/6 of a month, right? So you take 46. So we're talking about 400 and we're talking about 360 cars stolen.
Clearly outpacing this.
Wow.
Do you know if the key was in the car? Did the thief use the key or did the thief still break off the?
Don't have the answer to that. That would be something we could get, but obviously that's the analyst in my bureau having to go through that individual, which we can do.
I'm purely just curious
Yeah,
whether
sure.
the key mattered or not, or whether it was, oh, this is a Kia, I know I can steal it, whether or not the key is in it.
It's property guys, I can talk to them. They see all of these reports as well, so. let's see. The crimes against society, not much percentage wise, not much changing. I would point out that our DWIs, last month we were plus 7.7%, now plus 20%. So, job trying to keep fair drivers off the street. I started this slide last month and I try to keep it up here. The VCI, which we talked so much about. So last month I had just the first time that I had done it for you all, the year-to-date numbers. The number in parentheses is what happened in August alone. So how many arrests were made on from the Violent Crime Initiative? Handguns seized, again, rifles. Approaching 300 total guns seized. Look at, we're averaging 23 handguns per month. 300 few months. Stolen vehicles recovered just by the Violent Crime Initiative. Looking at the calls for service. Again, it's always going to be this way, July and August, but August, once again, every precinct above their moving average. A couple of things I started just playing with, because I know that the first precinct nearly responds to twice as many calls as you can see as any other precinct. I know the fourth is a little, they kind of split it to where it's not 2 times as much. But I looked into the first precinct in August responded to 36% of all calls for directed calls for service. And when we look at self-initiated, you can see how down the first precinct is again because of the volume of calls that they're responding to. They only take care of 7% of all self-initiated. So whereas it's overwhelming that they have 36% of directed calls as the other 7 precincts. Only 7% of the self-initiated up there just because it's just not Finally, our TSR data. Pretty status quo from last month, not much change. All the percent minority steps actually went down, but they can be up 2%. This fluctuates, right? See. Any questions regarding any of the crime stats? Good.
Thank you. Kia. Yeah. Wasn't it
Good morning.
one way?
To give the fiscal update very briefly for Ms. Hill's out of town taking care of a sick grandchild. So we had our meeting with Performance Management and Budget Office a few weeks ago regarding the 23 draft budget. They point out we discuss any issues and then moves on to the council. So our next step now will be a committee of the whole meeting in front of the council. It'll be sometime in October. We just don't know when because they normally will set it and then we show up. So that's what's going on with the budget. And then as far as the lateral pay is going and what our estimates were and what's actually occurring, I'm told that we're pretty close to what our estimates are, and we'll have a full report for that next month. And it's going to be showing up in the September 28th pay check. So hopefully we'll have those numbers for you, and I think they're pretty close on the estimates. So that's
We'll clean that one up just a bit. So both, we had two components primarily that we're trying to resolve with lateral pay. One was increase retention, reduce turnover. And two was to increase the number of applicants that we had. You'll give us an update on both of those next month.
I'll do it, and I'll do a little bit today too.
Okay.
So,
Thank you.
all right. So with respect to the traditional staffing report, we're now at 82 vacancies. That's up for commission. That's up 4 from last month. And as you know, we have 3 officers that have been experienced officers that have been given conditional offers. And hopefully we'll get them on board very soon. So Class 205 has 10 recruits right now, 5 county, 5 community. They graduate October 13th. That'll be at Merritt's. Class 206, which started in June, we have 17 total there. That's 10 muni and 7 county officers. They're going to graduate December 15th. That's also at Merritt's. And as we get closer, we'll push out that information to you. So if you'd like to attend. And the professional staff, we're actually have 4 less vacancies. We're down or up to only 36 vacancies compared to 40 last year, or last month rather. The Academy, PSC Academy number 15 started August 22nd with 6 applicants. It's a 7-week class. So they'll be graduating in about 3 more weeks. And then we're trying to fill PSD Academy class 16, which starts October 3rd. We're down 10 security officers right now. We do have 1 conditional offer pending, and we have quite a bit in going through the testing now. We have 9, I believe, in backgrounds for security officers. So that's encouraging with respect to that. And Captain Morgan's going to give you a further update on security here. With dispatchers, we're down 4 right now. That's an improvement over last month from being 7 down. And we only have 2 out with COVID. Faith Kistler, analyst Faith Kistler, and Officer Rich Benslow have been working the COVID team for the past 2.5 years. Done a great job marshaling the employees through when they do test positive or they have symptoms and they have questions and so forth. They've done a lot of COVID counseling, if you will, and done a great job at it. And the numbers are very encouraging. It's just really not an issue anymore. We have 6 out on military separation, 2 have returned. from a year reserve assignment. And there is, just for your own information, there is a reassimilation process, brief one that they go through to get refamiliarized, recertified with any kind of firearms training or anything else in regard to their continuing education that they need to keep. So we had, for the month of August, we had 23 new police officer or police recruit applications. We have 12 in backgrounds right now, and those are 9 of those are experienced officers. We have 9 experienced officers, but we haven't received any new experienced officer applications since September 1. And I know that there's, just from talking, we were at the sports luncheon yesterday, talking to city officers. We know that there's a lot of discussion among both the city and the municipalities and regional law enforcement agencies of what we've done with the lateral pay. And of course, it's being posted everywhere, social media and so forth, being pushed out. And we're getting a lot of inquiries. The recruiters and the personnel services unit folks are getting a lot of inquiries as to what their pay might be from experienced officers from all agencies. So that's encouraging. For the year, we've had 68 hires, 16 of those have been commissioned and 52 have been non-commissioned. For security, we have, like I said, about 9 or 10 applications that are in background, and we have about 20 more that are in the testing process. And as you know, a lot of that's self-initiated, where they need to sign up for the testing and to move themselves forward. If they don't, then the recruiters are following up and encouraging them to test, or they just get set for the testing if their application's been sitting a long time. So they're trying to move the applications that they do have as best they can. And so with respect to recruiting overall and the efforts, you've heard me say time and again that it's up to everyone as a recruiter. It's up to all of us to recruit. And I think that's true from the board on down to a records clerk. Everybody's recruiting. I'm seeing the referral fee applications coming in, $1,000 experience, $800 for inexperienced. I know Commissioner Banks has referred us folks, and that's appreciated, and it just trickles on down. So Lieutenant Webb and his team have put together what is the most extensive recruiting plan ever for this police department. And that was a team effort with him and his recruiters and the background investigators and so forth. And the recruiters are working very diligently to increase the number of quality applications, not just applications. They're almost every day doing a recruiting event all over the region, including military posts, colleges that they have relationships with the criminal justice programs, and in an attempt to get interested in quality applicants. The background investigators, we have a staff of 8, a sergeant, 3 full-time detectives, and 4 intermittent detectives that are working diligently, and they're making sure that our selection process remains as vigorous and the quality that we expect. The community outreach unit, along with all the precinct commanders and the precincts and so forth, are all collaborating very well in a more enhanced fashion within the past month or two. And I attribute that to the effort of the precinct commanders and Captain Van Buren, who was in charge of the Bureau of Community Engagement. And so that's very well appreciated. The tuition enrollment update, you're familiar with Maryville and Lindenwood. We have what I call tuition enrollment, where in the last semester of their criminal justice program, the student from those universities will attend the academy, earn their bachelor's degree, and at the same time, a post-certification and hopefully a job with law enforcement. And we are now in very close with UMSL to have an MOU signed and approved. So hopefully we can get some of their students, criminal justice students that are interested in becoming police officers attending the academy. And with respect to the academy, right now, we have 2 municipal instructor vacancies. We've been addressing SLAPCA. I know Captain Kelly, the chief, and I have been addressing it with local chiefs that we would like to fill those 2 positions with municipal officer. We do have one now, City of Brentwood has approved Officer Thomas Lang to come and be an instructor. So we're only 1 down on an instructor at the academy. So considering the staffing issues right now with the department, that's very encouraging. So Officer Lang should be starting here within the next 4 weeks at the academy. The chaplain semiannual training occurred September 1st. It was attended by about 50 chaplains. 29 of those were our chaplains, including Rabbi Shug. And they were presented with some instruction on tactical operations from Lieutenant Romo. And they were instructed on what their roles can be in terms of a barricaded subject or call out for tactical operations and crisis negotiations. And they were able to observe some of our technology at work, like the drones and robots and so forth. The Faith in Blue, which occurs next month, which is a collaboration of law enforcement and congregations across the region, across the nation, really, but was also discussed with them. And those chaplains are going back to their congregations and hopefully get the congregations on board to participate. The community outreach unit will be involved in that effort, but obviously we won't be able to be at every church that chooses to participate. Try and hit them all if they so choose. And also their yearbook were taken that day on the training. So a brief update on the mentorship program. So recently there were 35 attendees at Centene University, and there were 29 employees, 22 commissions, 7 pro staff. And in addition, the Mentorship Council attended the training also. And that just a shout out to them. On the commission side is Lieutenant Roach, Officer House, and Officer Larry Fields. And then on the professional staff side are Director Michelle Ryan, Becky Person, and Diana Wally. The class was taught by Rick Nemenick. The evaluations and the feedback were really good, very positive. And a shout out to the Police Foundation because they paid for the instructor and also lunch for the class that day. The chief addressed the class at the beginning of the program. Commissioner Banks made a surprise visit and spoke to the class, which was appreciated. And the next steps for the mentorship program are going to be assessing the assignments, assigning the mentee to the mentor. So right now it's not decided yet, and so I don't want to commit to it, but we are working on whether or not the class 204 that graduated in June and they're on field training now, and the 2 current academy classes, whether we're going to begin with them also or wait till January to begin with those recruits. And Colonel Cox is kind of wearing 2 hats right now. He's at the FBI NA, but we're also conversing with him because it obviously significantly affects patrol and his division, and we want to make sure that he's on board with that. So that we'll have an update on that next. The professional staff mentorships will begin right away with new hires, and in all likelihood will be retroactive a few months back to hook up with some recent professional staff hirees. End goal is or near-term goal is to train a total of 70 mentors. So we have about 30, 35 more to train. That will probably occur in October, November. And hopefully they'll be on board, and that we'll have a good ratio of mentors to mentees. The idea is for one mentor not to have more than one mentee. That could change depending on the duration and the mentor's availability and that sort of thing. My update. Questions?
Step one about the mentoring program. Who is the target audience for the mentors?
the target audience for the
The
mentors.
participants. So you've got a couple of different mentoring programs out there, whether it's the training when I come on, field trainer. So you've got versions of mentorship out there. This is a new one you started to accomplish what?
Right. And I'm not sure I'm following your question.
So you've got mentors. What are you going to have the mentor on? You turned it under an umbrella of leadership mentoring.
New employees.
Okay.
It'll be a recruit from right now anyway, from the beginning, the first day to academy graduation.
Thank you.
And for professional staff, it'll be 1 year.
Perfect. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Members of the board, ladies and gentlemen, also with us this morning, we have Captain that's here to provide you kind of an overview of what security services does. So
Quite an introduction.
without further ado-
Are we supposed to stand and
Yeah.
applaud? Well, that was pretty good.
Drum roll or something.
Captain, thanks for joining us. Now we're really intrigued by this. He can really set you up. I'm not sure if we're good or bad, but
So the PowerPoint presentation is not up there. That's great.
Well done.
any questions?
That was easy. I was told to do it very quickly. Thank you very much. He's got to come back.
We know he's having some screen problems on our end. Not sure. He may have stepped out to try to take care of it.
Gotta fix it. All right. I can do
Here he comes.
Here he comes.
Hope is on the way.
Let me know.
You believe we'll be able to get his presentation up quickly, or should we have him begin without it?
Once this mouse decides to work, it should.
Okay?
Hopefully.
I kept your ID guy. They never give me an answer.
So the deputy chief's already been the warm-up act, right?
Right,
So,
right.
okay.
Yeah. Good introduction a little longer.
There we go.
That's not you though.
That is not me. Okay, good morning. Thank you for allowing me the opportunity to kind of briefly talk about the Bureau of Security Services. As you know, it falls under the division of special operations, operational support. Operational support is ran by under leadership of Colonel Jerry Lord. One of the things I want to make sure that I identify is that I am not in charge of the Bureau. Ms. Cherie is in charge. She runs everything downstairs. I knew that very quickly. She's been with St. Louis County for over 30 years. She's been with Security Services for over 20. So we're very happy to have her, but she runs things, not me. And if you did not notice, we are hiring. You may see this again at some point. You may hear me say it again, but we are hiring. And we'll talk about our staffing. So what exactly do we do in security services? Our primary function is to scan the entry points for all our public and employee members that come to the county buildings. We also do a lot of things that most people are not aware of. Some of those are the locksmith. We do have a locksmith. He does a lot of the repairs. Any type of access that's down or broken, he does all those things. We also monitor the alerts, alarms, and the camera systems for all the buildings. Ms. Cherie, as I talked about before, she handles all the creation, access, and cancellation of our access cards. There are 29 of those locations that we monitor on a daily basis throughout the county. So we do have the first contact with all our new employees as well as any visitors to the department in all government buildings. We also have the honor of holding the fixed point security during inaugurations and our annual memorial services held in Memorial Plaza. One of the other responsibilities that we do on a weekly basis involves the county council meeting where we have the responsibility of holding security there. As you see here on our numbers, and Mr. Becker talked about just briefly, security services, the security side of that, we are at 49 with the allotment of 59. There are 10 commissions of police officers, and currently there are 5 commissioned sergeants. That is unique in that most commanders have more commissioned officers than they have pro staff, or what we call pro staff. That is reverse in security services. We have more armed security officers than we have commissioned officers. At any given time, we could have just security officers at the checkpoint and not commissioned officers at that time too. We are the most diverse unit in the department. That is largely due to us having Bosnian members of security services. We also have some people from South America, Guatemala, Colombia, India, and that's just to name a few. This allows us to assist with language barriers as well as minimizing some of the anxiety that comes along with entering the buildings. So that helps us out when you're able to come in a building and you see someone that's familiar to you, you come to court for whatever particular reason that may be. Moving on, our visitors. This may be shocking to some people, but these are our numbers on a monthly basis. As you see, those numbers range from about 74,000 up to almost 120,000. And we are fastly approaching, we will hit 1 million people that we will encounter at our numerous checkpoints throughout the campus here, as well as the other locations that we have, which are 7. I'll detail those here shortly. But those are the numbers that we currently have up through August. Our normal week for us that makes those numbers come true. Monday is our jury selection. Monday and Tuesday jury selection. It is our shortest staff day, but we can see upwards of numbers of 2,800 people just in the courthouse alone. Tuesday has a second draft or second listing of jury members along with the traffic dockets. Wednesday, love's in the air. So if you want to get married or you choose to get married at the courthouse, 10 o'clock, we will graciously allow you to come to the courthouse and you can do your thing. Wednesday, so you guys see here, you guys are going to go and check that out. Thursday includes our DWI dockets, drill court, and mental health court. Friday is another one of our shortest days, staffing wise, going through the weekend, where we don't have a lot of foot traffic, but we do still have our employees that we're responsible for. Unfortunately, when we have that volume of people who are responding to one said area, we do have some items that we do not want in the building. So here's our numbers on banned items. As you see there, through August of this year, there have been 46 guns stopped from coming into the building, nearly 3,000 knives, and the other items could include pepper spray, ammo, anything that could be rectified or changed to be a weapon within our building. We have a large number of those. What's important about that 46 number and exactly is that number also represents some of our employees who have come to the building with weapons in hand or on their person. And we have done everything we can do with the presiding judge with her cooperation and the other directors in the other buildings to try to get signage up and then have some meaningful education for the employees to try to curb those numbers, at least on the employee side of the house. Here is 2 items that we actually located down in, one was in the courthouse, the other one was in the admin building. That first one, that red one there, is actually a gyrated knife. It was in a pen, looks like a pen. Those second 2 items looks like it would be a magic marker, but short of any other term for it, that it's a shank that was actually gonna go into the courthouse. Some of the other duties that we have, this is more related to our commission side. As it showed there, we have 10 commission officers that are assigned with a lot of 14. We do make arrests, nearly 100 arrests, nearly 100 incident reports. Those calls for service could be anything from an alarm sounding, as well as something going on in the courtroom that a judge is asking us to respond up there to try to assist with stopping a disturbance of some sort. As I talked about before, is an assignment that most people don't know we do. As a locksmith, he's had 310 requests this year alone. We have 7 locations that we do outside of the footprint here at Clayton. One of them I did not mention due to there being a safety issue there. We'd like to not mention where that is. But most of them are the health centers, John C. Murphy, the South County and the North Central locations, the EOC. We also have Northwest Crossings, formerly known as Northwest Plaza. And then our newest addition is the Revenue Office in South County. That is a contracted location that they are paying for and funding. We're very excited about that. So what's new? What's happened in the 5+ months that I've been there? We have established and accepted a 119-hour basic training for the security officers. This is in front of you. I gave that to you. It's in front of you. It directly addresses the collective bargaining agreement that was signed and agreed upon for the 80 hours that the security officers must receive. We took that a little bit further and raised that number up to 119 and set out an outline on how we go about doing that with the partnerships of the other people that impacts, as far as getting them licensing the firearms that we work with the academy on, and those type of things to get them in uniform and out working at our posts as quickly as possible. Another thing that we've done is created a Bureau of Security Services research and development team. This is that bottom-up type of treatment. We're trying to find out exactly what's the most beneficial thing that we can do for the officers right away. Some of those things have already been introduced, and we're already doing them. Some of them also require some funding. So that's long-term, but this has been very beneficial to me. Being new down there, kind of getting the firsthand knowledge of what they see on a daily basis. We've done 2 new MOUs with the juvenile detention and then the sheriff's office that is within the courthouse. These kind of sprouted up after the individuals were escaped from family court. So we wanted to make sure we had some measures in place to make sure that we can assist them if need be. I talked about the paid contract with the South County Revenue Office. We talked about this a couple of times as well, with suspension of the height, weight requirements and the PT test for our newest applicants. And then we renewed our partnership with the Clayton PD, Chief Smith over at Clayton PD, the presiding judge, Mary I, and then the directors that are in the multiple different locations that we actually serve. And then lastly, what are we looking for and what do we need for future? We're going to have a financial investment and some equipment. Unfortunately for us, that equipment is rather pricey. We're talking about X-ray machines, walkthroughs, a multi-function radio similar to what the patrol is using. We're going to need those things as we try to move forward and make this safe for our security officers and the public. That second one there is truly talking about us finding people who want to stay in security services as a long-term goal. We do appreciate those who have aspirations to go further, but we need people who are going to be committed to stay with us a little bit longer. That will help us with our numbers and keep that service that we are striving to provide a little more in line. And then, like I talked about with the officers, with the employees bringing firearms into the property, We're gonna have to have a total commitment and a cooperation from our employees. We depend upon them to follow the rules so that we don't have to focus on them as much. We focus on the general public. As you saw, those numbers, are large. We'd like to spend our time on the people who may not know the rules, versus our own employees. So that is vitally important, and we're doing our best at this point to try to get that done. I've been to a couple of meetings and done some talks with some of the bureaus that are over there, and I think we're moving in that direction. And if you didn't know, we're hiring. I don't know if you heard that or not, but we are hiring, and if you have any questions,
I have a few questions.
yes.
So the X-ray machines that everything goes through to get into the courthouses, those are funded by us?
Yes, ma'am.
So every time we need a new one, it's us?
Yes, ma'am. And they range, a basic one is about $45,000. The models that are in there are probably in the 50s or 60s. And they're just outdated. We use them just like TSA. TSA runs those. They have a full-time team that works to get those things serviced and maintenance. And it's part of the deal.
And how long do they usually last?
That I don't know. I think we have the maintenance as needed at this point. We do have some things in place to try to adopt some plans in 2023 in the budgeting aspect of things. Obviously, that has to be decided on outside of my pay grade. But yes.
And what's the average tenure of a security officer? I'm not
So-
asking precisely. I mean, are we talking, do they usually stay 2 years or 10 years?
So the makeup of the number that we have here now, most of those individuals have been here anywhere from a year to 3 years. We do have some long tenure people that are down there. Hugo, who's downstairs that everybody sees, he's been here the longest. He's great, does everything for us. And I think he's been here about 8 years or so. We are marketing in the aspect of getting people to move on. So that number unfortunately will decrease because most people who can't get in on the police side will gravitate to the security side. We welcome those people as well. But I would say the average tenure is about 2 years, Steve, just off the top of my head is what I would think.
And that's because then they go to the academy.
Correct. Not everybody, but there's a large number that will take that option. And it's a benefit to us. That is a benefit to us on the policing side.
Thank you. Nope. Thank you.
Okay.
We'll get to that final thank you. Yeah, thank you to your unit protecting all of us every time we come in and anybody who enters one of the county buildings. So please pass our appreciation on to your entire unit. Thanks for your leadership of that unit. And I mean, we all mean that sincerely. A couple of other things. You said something that caught my attention and I very much appreciate it personally, which is you are our most people's primary point of contact with the police department, right? That just anybody enters the building, interacting with your group and knowing how well they do that and what your expectations are of them. Appreciate both. The one that you realize how important their interactions are with the public and two, that you all are doing something with it. It's a very tactical question and I apologize I'm asking it. The knives, the guns, and the other things that you pick up, what happens to those? Do those go through the normal process like anything else, or because they're primarily handled by, that they are often our employees, county employees, do they get them back at some point? What, just very high level, what happens to those things that are confiscated?
At this point, if those items are found, they are stopped and asked to remove from the building. They are not seized, they're not packaged. Again, that is primarily because we have security officers that don't have those abilities to do that. So we allow that hopefully responsible gun owner, knife, person with a knife or pepper spray to exit the building, hopefully secure it, and then and come back in and do the business that they need.
Thank you. Next, you had a slide up there that had 3 things that were next. What do you need from us in order to make that happen? We hear the funding from Commissioner Schweren's piece, right? How do we fund some additional machinery? What else do you need from us?
And quite frankly, those 3 things are we can actually get, those are tangible items, and I thought that that would be better for us to talk about because the number for the machines is very high. So the cooperation thing is massive. In August, we had every month there was somebody who had a firearm that was in. So that was a problem for us, and I think that cooperation piece helps us with our manpower issue if we are focused on just our people who are visiting the building versus those who should know the rules. It helps us. I mean, it does help us. It expedites the process. That last part, let me make sure that last one was, the push towards us having, people who are committed to stay with county or stay with security services. That's going to come with time. I mean, we have to get our manpower on the street for the commissioned officers up to par. And as we do that, I think that commitment will be a little better for us because we'll have the opportunity to give them other options, records and those type of things versus that 1 year commitment for streets.
Well, if it offers anything in addition to the funding and some of the other things that are out there, if that cooperation with the employees of the county, if there's something that this board can do to help further with communications or whatever to message that within the county, please let us know.
Yes, sir. We're doing signage and I'm continuing to do the meetings and stuff with the directors. So I think we're getting the message out. The signage is going up and I think we're doing a little bit better. At least we have, coming into this.
Lastly, as compliments on your comic routine, that's pretty good. You made a topic that's important, but you also made it very light, even though it's a very serious thing. So thank you.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I just want to say, first of all, I commend you, Captain Morgan, for the job you're doing down there. I suspect I have the most interaction of anybody with your services because I've been practicing law in that courthouse for 30 years before they had security.
Right.
When you could walk in from any entrance back in the old days. And they're doing a good job. So I really commend you on that. You mentioned in your presentation about arrests. Can you give some details of how those happen?
So there are times when people may go down the records and they don't know that they have a warrant, felony level warrant, or we'll make those type of arrests actually down there.
That's a bad visit. Wow. Okay.
More commonly, it's they're being remanded by the judge to be arrested. Or if there's some business they take place up there that they find out in the course of the course that they have some type of warrant or anything like that, then we will make them in place to get them in custody.
I thought you meant at the point of entry there was an arrest, but
No,
I understand.
we typically don't have those.
Gotcha.
Clayton does, try to assist us with that as much as possible, but it's primarily after they've gotten through the interest points. We like if you come down here that you have the opportunity to do the business that you come down here. So we try to lighten that at the checkpoints and do that on the backside.
Understood. Thank you.
Thank you for your leadership.
Well done, sir.
Mr. Chairman, that's the chief's report.
Thank you, sir. Very good. Next topic on the agenda is the approval of our minutes from our August 10th, 2022 meeting. May we have such motion?
Move we approve those minutes?
Second.
Thank you. Any further discussion on those minutes? Any edits, any changes? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, we have our minutes in. Letters in communication. Amy, anything from an incoming communication standpoint?
Sir.
Anything else outgoing? Very good. Old business? Not in reference to me, just so you know.
That's you.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for the joke. All right, new business. We have 6 different things that six different agreements or contracts that we're going to sign off on. I'm going to suggest that we do those in 2 sets of 3. The first 3 are service agreements. The last 3 are a grant, an MOU, and an intergovernmental agreement. So if you don't mind doing that in 2 sets of 3, it sounds like they're an appropriate bundle. Contract number 1 is a police service agreement with the Housing Authority of St. Louis County. There's a recommendation to approve a contract with the Housing Authority of St. Louis for 1 police officer. The term of this agreement is upon execution to December 31st, 2023 at a monthly cost of $8,833.75. The second is a professional service agreement with Professional Law Enforcement Training LLC for a new contract to provide the CMPA with an instructor to teach a program entitled Law Enforcement Leadership Development on November 21st, 2022 at a cost not to exceed $3,250. And the third in this bucket is also a professional service agreement with Vista Law Enforcement Training Consulting LLC to approve a new contract for Vista Law Enforcement and Consulting LLC for a instructor at the CMPA to teach a program entitled 40-Hour Corporate Security Advisors Course on November 28th through the December 2nd, 2022 at a cost not to exceed $4,000. We have a motion to approve those three agreements.
I move that the professional service agreements previously read be.
Thank you.
I second it.
Thank you. Any further conversation on those three agreements? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? All right, so those three are approved. Our second bundle of three is a professional service agreement with the Missouri Department of Transportation to approve a grant contract that would allow the department to accept funding from the Missouri Department of Transportation for the Motor Carrier Safety Assistance Program. The grant grant award is $1,389,771.75. It is to provide continued funding for the salaries and fringe benefits of 7 police officers assigned to St. Louis County Police Department's Commercial Vehicle Enforcement Unit. The grant will also provide funding for overtime for 7 full-time officers and 1 part-time officer, 3 new vehicles and equipment, travel attendance at a conference, uniforms, and equipment supplies. The grant runs from July 1, 2022 through June 30, 2023. The second in this bundle is a memorandum of understanding with the Federal Bureau of Investigation. Is to approve an MOU between the FBI and the St. Louis County Police Department. The MOU delineates the responsibilities and commitments of the FBI and the St. Louis County Police Department as the participating agency in the St. Louis Cyber Task Force. The FBI and St. Louis County agree to assume all personnel costs for their CTF personnel, including salaries, overtime payments, and fringe benefits. The term of this MOU is for the duration of the CTF's operation, contingent upon approval of necessary funding, but may be terminated at any time upon written mutual consent of the participating agencies involved. The third in this bundle is an intergovernmental agreement with St. Charles County. It is to approve an intergovernmental agreement between St. Louis County Police Department and the St. Charles County Police Department as founding agencies of the Regional Information and Intelligence Center, commonly referred to as the RIC. The agreement authorizes the existence and operation of a RIC. This agreement sets clear guidelines and expectations for participating in the RIC. Ordinances in both counties have been executed by the county executives to participate in this agreement. May we have a motion to approve the last three agreements within this bundle?
I move we approve these agreements.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any further conversation on these three agreements? All in favor? All right, any opposed? All right, all 6 were approved. Lieutenant Chaplain, we have some general orders.
We have 2 general orders, hopefully for your approval. First one is 125, records open to the public. Order eliminates board policy 1. It's entitled Board Policy for Release of Information. Additionally, this draft taken from the Bureau of Central Police Record Bureau Procedure titled Records Open to the Public. And this was modified to create this order in the advice. Ultimately, it says that our department at all times.
Thank you for that.
Yep. Questions?
Any changes that are to be highlighted in the public session? We have it, but anything else that you want to make sure? Very good. Any questions for Lieutenant Shaw? Maybe a motion to approve such general order?
I move we approve this general order.
Second.
Any further conversation on general order 22-125? All in favor? Any opposed? Very good, sir. Approved.
Sir, thank you. And the second one is 2284, which is the contract officer program. This policy was initiated by Lieutenant Schaefer of the Police Contract Services Unit by transparent pricing and updated cost sheet and officially to get Chief Gregory or signature on it as Lieutenant Schaefer moves further in discussions. of contract talks.
Thank you. Full disclosure, I talked with Lieutenant Schaefer today just about the cost mechanism over the next 3 years to ensure that we have all the changes that we've made in the last couple of months to our cost basis, and he assured me that we are timely with that. So, any further questions on this one?
I have one quick question. So at the end of the order, it says that it will be reviewed, it shall be reviewed annually and may be revised. Are we calendaring, like, in September of every year, we're gonna review this?
Yes, ma'am.
Answer the question. May I have a recommendation to approve GO 22084?
I move, go ahead.
So
Thank you.
I'll second.
Thank you. Any further conversation on 22084? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, sir. Thank you. All right, anything else from a public perspective? Very good. The Board of Police Commissioners may vote to go into closed session meeting for legal advice and review of claims and lawsuits involving the police department, sections 610.02101 of RSMO and section 114020.11 SLCRO, and discussion of employee and personnel matters, sections 610.021.3 and 13 RSMO, sections 114020.1 and 3 and 13 SLCRO. You have a roll call vote to move to closed session.
Commissioner Ashworth,
Yes,
Commissioner Banks,
Yes.
Commissioner Hassler,
yes.
Commissioner Schwerin. Yes.
we are in closed session. Thank you all. Thank you all. We are back from closed session. We did a roll call. We had a motion and a roll call vote to return to open session. All four commissioners voted yes to return to open session, hence we are here. The only thing we have to close with is our next meeting will be on October 12th at 9 a.m. Anything else?
There were no votes.
No other votes than returning into open. Thank you. I'm seeing. Thank you. With that, we are officially adjourned. Oh, no, we need to make a motion to adjourn, don't we? Amy,
I move that we adjourn.
I second that motion.
And
Amy's-
we do roll call.
I know, I'm sorry. Amy, you better do this quick because we're ready to go.
Commissioner
Yes, sir.
Ashworth, Commissioner Banks,
Yes.
Commissioner Hassler,
Yes.
and Commissioner Schwerin.
Yes.
We are adjourned.